Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu, my dear viewers of IQRA channel, friends of IQRA channel and viewers of IQRA channel. Welcome to Real Talk, a program that is here, which started by Mufti Yusuf Akuri, who unfortunately cannot be with us today, to bring to the viewers of IQRA channel people from our communities who have made a difference, people who are influencers, people who have made differences to the work of the community, to politics, etc. And that is one of the aspirations of this program, to try and bring in front of you people that you may want to know about, hear about, see what they've been doing, hear about what they've been doing, and how they have actually benefited the Muslim Ummah across the world that they occupy. Today, I have a great delight in inviting Imtiaz Patel from Blackburn. Assalamu alaikum, Imtiaz sir. Welcome to our IQRA channel. Thank you for coming all the way across the Pennines. Imtiaz is a well-known member, not just in Lancashire, but across the West Yorkshire region as well. And actually nationally as well as internationally, because he's one of the preeminent Gujarati poets in our community, and therefore is one of those who goes around the country at literature festivals, reciting his Gujarati poetry, bringing it to the masses, not just, as I said, in this country, but across the world as well. And I think he's been to a number of countries to do that. He started off as when he came to this country after going to college. He did a degree and got an MSc. He then worked for Blackburn and Derwent Borough Council in cultural services area, and then he joined the NHS and has many years of experience, both in terms of working in a professional capacity, both in public sector within the health sector, as well as the other public sector within local authorities. Imtiaz has had a very varied and interesting life. He is a politician, former politician, member of the Liberal Party as a councillor on Blackburn and Derwent Borough Council, and has also worked very closely with Jack Straw, who was the Home Secretary at that time, with Lord Adam Patel, who was the Labour peer, still is. And then, as I said, he worked for the NHS. Imtiaz was married, has 2 children, and recently lost his wife after 30 years of marriage nearly. He has also adopted 2 children, which is something that you don't hear more about in this country, in our community. So he is a man who inspires many people on a different level, both in terms of public sector work, as well as I say, in education, in culture and the arts, and in the politics, where, as I say, he was one of the preeminent people in that community in Blackburn and Derwent. So Imtiaz Sahab, welcome. We're really fascinated by your biography. If I was to look through everything that I've read, I'd probably need about 15, 16 pages. By the time I'd read everything, this program would be over. Thanks for coming, as I say, all the way across from Blackburn. And we want to hear your story. We want to hear how you started in politics, for example. What motivated you? And why did you get engaged in politics? And then you were in the Labour Party for a long time, and then moved away from the Labour Party into the Liberal Party, and became a councillor on behalf of the Liberal Party, and then an advisor, national advisor on ethnic minority issues for the Liberal Party. So how did this all begin?
Iqbal bhai, first of all, Jazakallah and Walaikum Salam, and thank you very much for inviting me and providing me with this opportunity to talk about, I wouldn't say myself, but the experiences and the kind of, the team I was working in a political field, in a cultural field, in a literature field, in a social kind of manners, community manners. So the credit goes to a lot of people. And thank you very much for your kind words as well. And it's always a pleasure to have you in company, whether on the screen or off the screen, Iqbal bhai. Politics, I would say people normally disconnect politics as a separate subjects. But I think the family which I was born in Gujarat, in Palej, the town which is in between Bharuch and Baroda. Then came to this country back in 80s, and then started looking for something to do for myself, for my family, for the community. But when I was a student in India, I think from a very early days, because of my family environment, they were very close, and they are still very close to Congress party and some of the very influential leaders. I used to go, I used to watch, I used to listen with my mom, with my dad, with my nana, with my dada. And then I realized that politics is part of our life. No matter what you do, whether we like it or whether we don't like it, that's a different debate we can have. But I realized from the very early days that politics is very important, and I think this particular subject, politics, does influence up to some extent, your personal life, your professional life, your family, the community, the nation you live in. So I started taking interest when I was a student. So I was a student union, and then, you know, I started, you know, became.
So it's been in your blood, basically.
It's been in my blood. It's been in our family DNA. And I think we also realize as a family, and I also picked it up from my grandpa, from my dad's side, from my mom's side, that I think it's a very powerful tool. It's a very powerful platform. And I think if you're genuinely interested and you're sincerely, and if you want to move on from A to B, then I would say that politics is one of the best tools. Again, we can have a debate about negative politics and positive politics, but I'm talking about, I think you can do a lot of good stuff. So when I came to this country, the first question I asked, obviously, and funny enough, I think, if I'm not wrong, in 80s, I came to Britain in Margaret Thatcher era.
All right.
And we used to hear a lot about Margaret Thatcher at that time, that, oh, well, she's the Iron Lady, she's a very strict Prime Minister. And particularly, I think, Asian community, we have a very special interest in a lot of things. But one of the special interests we had was immigration. So I still remember in those days that, you know, oh, I think you better go to England if you want to very quickly, otherwise it's going to affect the immigration rules, regulations. So I was curious about Conservative Party, and then, you know, I had some information about Labour Party. So when I came here, I think the first thing I did when I was in Blackburn is to really look for some kind of, you know, political activity and movement, and then I met.
So when you came over, you felt that you wanted to continue that interest in political activity and sort of see what difference you could make to the society.
Absolutely,
right.
Absolutely, and I'm proud to say that you know, the name you mentioned, Lord Adam Patel. We call him, I still call him Adam Mama or Adam Uncle, with great respect. He's the first person whom I came in contact when it came to Labour Party in Blackburn.
Right.
And then I started going in a meeting, I started taking more interest. He started, you know, approaching me to get some more help during the election time. And that's how I continued with my interest in politics, realizing it's significant and realizing it's important. That is how I started getting involved in Labour Party. Though I was working full time, though I wanted to do college, because I wanted to kind of, you know, learn English language, because I was new, the different culture, the different language, the different civilization. So I thought, you know, get into the education was very important, and it still is very important for me. And I think that, you know, that subject again quite important. So while I was at the college, while I was working full time, I used to take a lot of interest.
What particularly about the Labour Party attracted your attention, that you felt that this is the movement I want to join, as opposed to the Conservatives or the Liberal Party at that time? What were the values that you felt were more close to what you believed in?
I would like to confess on IQRA television, and I have confessed this many times on radios and on television program, I don't think personally I did any search in terms of what Labour Party stands for, the values, the policies, whether it's good or bad. I think it was just natural kind of phenomena that when I came to Blackburn back in 80s, when I started talking about my political interests, the first thing I heard is, oh, we have a Labour Party, very active, they are in control, it's a good party, and inverted comma, good for Asian, very welcoming party. So I think naturally, without doing any homework, I thought, okay, then that's the party I think I should join. And once I came in contact with Lord Patel, Jack Straw, many other Asian councillors, many other Asian individuals who were very active, slowly I began to realize that, okay, I think the Labour Party has got the values which sort of correlates or which matches with my own values, which is the kind of, you know, the social value, the civil liberty, the civic participation, the human rights, the openness, the democracy, the fairness, the equality, and all these things. But it came at a later stage as I started associating myself with some of the seniors and more experienced people in Labour Party.
Right.
So it was like coincidence that, yeah, it turned out to be something which I would have been, you know, part of that in the first place. Yeah.
Right. So I mean, you were in the Labour Party for quite some time. You worked very closely with Lord Adam Patel and with Jack Straw, who was the Member of Parliament for Blackburn for many, many years, who then became the Home Secretary, and then obviously
Foreign Secretary,
and the Foreign Secretary as well, and one of the most senior members of the Labour Party.
Yeah.
And I presume at that time, you know, then you came to a stage where you decided to leave the Labour Party and join the Liberal Party.
Yeah.
What made you do that?
Well, as you mentioned, it was pleasure, it was honor, to work with all these people, and I should also again mention few more names if I may. I think at that time the council leader, Councillor Bill Taylor, Sir Bill Taylor,
right.
We were working very closely. Councillor Kate Holland, who is now our, she was the leader of the Blackburn Down Borough Council. She is now member of Parliament, the successor of Jack Straw himself, Lord Anand Patel, Mr. Inayat Ghani, Arif Umarji, the county councillors, late Arif Umarji, many more people. I was working very, very closely with them. And I was with Labour Party for almost, God knows, from 80s to up to 2001, just before the Iraq War. So it was a long association, a very nice association. And Alhamdulillah, I'm proud to say that, because of that tool, because of some fantastic councillors, fantastic environment at that time in politics, I'm not sure about now, and I say this deliberately, we have done some good community work. The REC was flourishing, ethnic minority development was flourishing, many other ethnic organizations, Asian organizations, the community cohesion, and there's so many exciting things we have done as a Labour Party activist. So the things were okay till 2001, Iqbal Bhai. And then I don't have to say this, everybody knows, if not then most of the people know who follow politics, that in British politics and in world, the 2001 was a turning point, and I think 2001 was a turning point in my life as far as politics is also concerned, and I would leave it to your assumption.
No, this is to do with the Iraq war, was it?
I would say partly, Iqbal Bhai, absolutely partly, because what happened, let me just give you a little bit of more background, or brief background, to just put our viewers in perspective, that why I made such a big decision, that I was very loyal, very sincere, I was enjoying my, political movements, activities, development, and some of the most powerful.
Because you had a very bright future in the Labour Party.
Absolutely.
You had a huge future in the Labour Party.
At that
particularly
time.
in Blackburn, yes, at that time.
Spot on. The Blackburn has been very, very Labour dominated.
Yes, exactly.
But that particular election, people knew that it's going to be a landslide victory as far as Labour is concerned, and a lot of people would have got tremendous amount of opportunity, and they did. They did. I'm not suggesting that. But what happened at that time, the world was changing, the September 11, and then the kind of, war predictions from the Western world that, war is going to happen in the Middle East, Iraq is on target. And I was talking to some of the intellectual, very mature, wise people, not only within the political circle, but within the community circle, within the social circle, within the academic as well, just on a point that, okay, if there's a need to go for a war for any country, that's fine, no problem. Cabinet decides, Prime Minister decides, we have the information, and if it's to do with the protection of the country, protection of the citizen, resources, we agree with that in terms of politics. But particularly Iraq war, at that time, Iqbal Bhai, and now we are talking about 2001, and we are talking about 2017, the one question, after talking to a lot of intelligent people, intellectual people, academic, wise people, I just wanted to know one answer from everybody, and particularly from Mr. Jack Straw, that we knew that he's going to hold a very important cabinet positions within the Tony Blair government. So as our MP, as our Labour Party leader, I particularly just wanted to know whether the Iraq war was legal, ethical, and moral. And this question was raised by me and some of my close associate many a times. Rather than answer, we only had the explanation. And I think sometime, not only sometime, but when it comes to principle, we all have our principle, whether it's a political principles, whether it's a religious principles, social principles, whatever, but we should have minimum principles, at least in my opinion. And I had a principle, and I still have a principle, that whatever you do, I think you got to evaluate, you got to analyze the situation, whether it is ethical, moral, or legal. I did not get the answer in black and white. So then I decided at a point, and then up to some extent I became a kind of, subject of the isolation as well, because if I ask this question again and again, too many questions, yes, and certain leaders didn't like it.
So they sidelined you.
So they started sidelining me.
Right.
So then I had a choice, Iqbal Bhai, to compromise with my political principle, which is that Labour Party, which I believe, I still believe, that the true Labour Party, the original Labour Party, the left thinking, who believe in, as I said, equality, diversity, inclusiveness, civil liberty. Yeah, war is the last mean to create everlasting peace. Then how come our Prime Minister, or how come our cabinet, or how come our own MP would engage in something which in principle goes against the Labour Party, I would say, the policy and system?
Let me also make a confession here.
Okay.
I was a member of the Labour Party from 1976 onwards.
Okay.
A very loyal member of the Labour Party, worked very hard in a number of elections trying to get our local MPs elected. And I, like you, when this war happened, I tore up my Labour Party membership and did not renew my membership until after the Labour Party had gone out of power and we had a new leader of the party who had apologized for the actions of the previous Labour government. So that was my state as well. So I know many other people who felt the same way.
Sure.
So that was a turning point for you, where you felt that the Labour Party had betrayed your values and your principles, and its own values and principles in some people's eyes, many people's eyes. So then you joined the Liberal Party as a member, and you became the councillor. Were you the first Asian councillor, Liberal councillor?
That's right.
Blackburn and Durban Council?
Yeah. Just before that, very quickly, if I may mention, and I wouldn't like to challenge in any way, Iqbal, in terms of you're very senior, you're very wise, and you've seen many seasons, and I'm still learning. But it wasn't the Labour Party, I believe still, that betrayed Labour members at that time, but I think it was the leadership. The
leadership, yeah, that's what I meant.
I think now we know what's the fact. I don't have to go into details. It's on record that the Prime Minister was wrong, half of the cabinet was wrong, and the voices came from the Labour Party at that time. For those who were not in favour of war, I think they proved to be wrong. But anyway, that is something done, dusted. It's a history, but I think we need to learn from the history, whether the war was good or bad or whatever. And then one of the reasons I joined Liberal Democrat is because then I thought, when I started looking at the manifesto, when I started looking at the policies, some of the core values and ethics, I found similarity between obviously Labour and Liberal Party from the philosophical point of view and from the policy point of view. So I became member of Liberal Democrat Party because as a political activist and political animal, I could not survive without the politics. So I thought, I have to be in certain camps where again I can do something for the community. So I became a Liberal Democrat member, and then by coincidence they offered me the parliamentary ticket.
Right.
That would you be interested to fight?
This is against Jack Straw.
Yeah.
Yes.
Not against Jack Straw, but
your mentor. He was your mentor before that. How did that go down with the former colleagues in the Labour Party?
It was a dilemma because even now I would like to clarify this, that I did not leave the Labour Party on a personal ground. They were good friends. Whether it's Jack Straw, whether it's Bill Taylor, whether it's Kate Holland, or many other councillors, and Lord Patel, I still respect him because in politics I have learnt a lot, and I think he provided good, useful guidance. But it was a policy I was against. So basically, when I was offered that, would you be interested to fight an election in Blackburn, which is against Jack Straw primarily, as a candidate and serving MP, I accepted the challenge.
And a cabinet member.
Yes. I accepted the challenge on the basis of two things here. Now, the 2 points very important, Iqbal, I would like to raise here. Number one, I wanted to make a point that as a matter of principle, I'm still holding my grounds, my political grounds. But at the same time, when I was working with the Labour Party very actively, I realized that particularly Asian community and particularly Muslim community, they somehow were not counted as part of the mainstream kind of movement. It's like there's a mainstream movement, and minorities particularly, and particularly Muslims, are like secondary. And I also noticed that all these years, for good or bad reason, I think the ruling party, which was at that time Labour in Blackburn, for 30-35 years, I felt it, I might be wrong, that it's been taken for granted, and the voice has not been listened. So I wanted to send a signal as well that within the Asian community, within the Muslim community, don't take everybody for granted. And nobody should take anybody for granted. Anyway, I'm just making this general point. So I just wanted to make a psychological kind of, you know, a point by fighting that election. I knew that I would lose it by majority, but I just wanted to stand to prove 2 points, that principally I'm still against the war, and as far as the Asian community, I wanted to send a signal that why can you not become a part of mainstream kind of, you know.
So do you feel that, you know, after that, within the Liberal Party or the Labour Party or the Conservative Party, for example, that the people who are engaged now are more part of the fabric of the political structure, or do you still feel that they are still seen as an added, add-on, rather than being fundamental and key principles, equal partners in the structure of the political parties across all parties?
I haven't done my homework, Iqbal Bhai, so I cannot say whether this is the situation or whether it has happened or not. But one thing I can say for sure, on the basis of my personal experience and my personal engagement with the mainstream party, i.e. Labour and Liberal, and I was fortunate that not only with Labour but in Liberal, I was fortunate to work very closely with Lord our former president, Navneet Dholak.
Navneet Dholak, yeah. I knew Navneet before he became Lord, when he used to work for the CRE.
Absolutely, a very dynamic, a very diversified, and quite a powerful leader in his own sense. I have learnt a lot. But one thing has happened in Blackburn, that people have received the message in a positive way. Number one, that you don't have to toe party lines all the time. I think you got to look at the principles, you got to look at the policy, you got to look at what is right and what is wrong, and you cannot just be in politics just to please each other. There are times where you have to challenge your own leaders, I'm afraid, which I did. So that psyche has changed, and not only that, but I was also fortunate to become the first Asian Muslim Liberal Democrat, a councillor to have won the election from the ward, which never lost to the Labour.
We have to go to the break now.
Okay.
Time's. Yeah, we have to go for a break. Sorry, viewers. I was getting the message that we have to go for the break. Thank you very much so far. I'm sure it's fascinating, interesting, and we'll come back to it.